I didn't do it in her accent, did I?
Not
This
quite.
meeting is being recorded. So, oh, here's Veronica, we'll let her in. So, if you are ready to do so, let's take a moment to find some space, either lying on your back or lying on your side.
I'm here. Sorry, we had a problem.
No, we gathered.
I am a problem.
You're just trouble.
You know me too well, too soon.
I'm telling you.
Right.
So I'm going to mute all of you now, and I've pinned myself, so hopefully that will be the main thing that comes up on your screen that you're watching on. I know that some of you have got smaller screens, so it's difficult trying to watch if you're in gallery view. Perfect. So if you're happy to take a comfortable supine position, and all I'll say is for the Shavasana, it doesn't really matter if I can see you, but when we do the opening mobilization bits, if your camera's up in the ceiling, I won't be able to see if you're doing things right or wrong. So you might just want to adjust, nudging your camera down a little bit, just so that I can see your body. I'm only sitting up because I find it hard to lie down and speak. So take a few moments here to adjust to lying down during the day, because that's not a normal thing that we do. We're usually not very good at giving ourselves permission. And notice if you are holding tension anywhere in the body. It's not uncommon to feel that we're holding the shoulders, perhaps clenching the fists or the jaw. So take a few moments to allow the weight of your bones to settle, to soften the joints, to relax the muscles, and to tune into your breath. Follow the breath from the tip of the nose along the nasal passages. And notice the sensations of the breath. The cool air at the tip of the nose, the warm air at the back of the throat. And mindfully slow the breath down. We're always in such a hurry, rushing to get here and there. So make yourself a promise that for the next hour, you give yourself permission to disconnect from distractions, to push that to-do list to one side, and to fully focus on the merging of the body with the breath. Expanding and widening with every inhalation. Softening and releasing tension with every exhalation. Remind yourself to come to the end of each full breath, no cutting corners. And notice without judgment if the breath feels constricted anywhere in the body. Every inhalation serves to nourish and energize the body, preparing us for the work of our practice today. Every full exhalation releases the body of tension, gives us permission to let go. Maintain this deep, steady breath. Start to bring your focus back to the physical body. Returning sensation by wiggling fingers and toes, wriggling the jaw, wriggling the nose. Making any adjustments here so that we come to lie with the legs fully outstretched. So if the knees are bent, take a moment to extend the legs along the mat. Reposition the hands either side of the hips, turning the palms up towards the ceiling, drawing the shoulder blades together so that we're resting into the flats of the shoulder blades. On the next inhalation, lift the arms overhead, pointing through fingers and toes, lengthening through the front of the body. On the exhalation, draw the right knee in towards the chest, placing the hands to the shin, allowing a little pressure here, just to find that release in the lower back. Inhale once more to lengthen through the full body. Then exhale to hug the left knee in, hand again gently pressing on the shin to widen the space at the back of the sacrum. Inhale to take a further full body stretch, this time bringing the thumbs together in an interlock, resting the backs of the hands an inch from the floor, drawing the toes towards the shins, creating flexion at the ankles. On the out breath, push the upper body to the right, finding that deeper release through the left of the waist and the rib cage. Inhaling back to center, another full body stretch. Then return to flexion at the feet, thumbs in an interlock, exhaling to the left side and opening into the right of the waist and the rib cage. Inhale again to return to center and take that further full body stretch. This time on the out breath, draw both knees in, and again we'll place hands to the shins or the back of the thighs if that feels more comfortable for you, as we start to gently rock the body weight from one side to the other. So we feel as though we're moving over the left and right back of the hips, returning to center, then widening the arms, turning the palms up to the ceiling, keeping the hands in line with the shoulders. Then on an out breath, rolling the knees to the right side as you gently turn your gaze over the left arm. So initially you might feel that left shoulder lift from the floor. Work with the breath, expand into that side of the rib cage. Then exhale to release the full weight of the left shoulder back to the floor. Inhaling to expand and widen into the side of the rib cage. Exhaling now to engage the core, rolling the knees through center, then taking the knees to the opposite side. Finding a release now into the right of the rib cage. Again, we'll take that extra breath to soften the shoulder to the floor. This twist, this release. Feeling yourself expand and widen into this space. On the next out breath, draw the tummy button in. Bring the knees back to center. We'll keep the knees directly above the hips and we'll just find a little space between the feet. Toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Lift the arms directly above the shoulders, palms facing towards one another as the thumbs point towards the back of the room. If you feel any undue lifting in the lower back, it might help to just draw the knees a little closer to the chest. It just helps to round that space in the lower back to the floor. If you're happy and comfortable to stay in this 90-degree angle, let's extend the lever by taking the right foot forward, hovering that heel an inch from the floor, inhaling to point that right toe, exhaling to flex. Mindfully engaging the core again, drawing the tummy button in, then inhaling to extend both arms back, resting the thumbs an inch from the floor, inhaling to point the right toe, exhaling to flex. Now use the big toe to draw 3 circles in towards the midline of the body. Then change direction, take those circles the opposite way. Bring that foot back to flexion. Then as you exhale, engage the core, draw the knee back to center, bring the arms back to that space above the shoulder. On the out breath, extend the left heel forward. Remember, you can always adjust if the lower back lifts by drawing that knee a little closer to the chest. As you hover the left heel an inch from the floor, pointing the toe, flexing the toe, then extending the arms back. Again, we're making the core work a little harder. Inhaling to point, exhaling to flex. Using the big toe to draw 3 circles in towards center. Then changing direction, taking those circles the opposite way. Bring that foot back to flexion, keep the core engaged, and then draw that knee back to center. Let's bring both hands to rest on the shins as you hug the knees to the chest, releasing any tension in the lower back by gently drawing a little figure of 8 with the knees. So it feels a bit like massaging the space across the sacrum into the lower back. As you return to center, replace both feet to the floor and be mindful when you position the feet that we keep that little hip width distance between the heels, that little gap between the thighs, turning the palms again towards the ceiling, drawing the shoulder blades together. Exhale again to draw the tummy button in, fill that gap in the lower back. On an inhale, push into the soles of the feet and lift the bottom from the floor. On your next inhalation, press the shins forward, lifting the thighs higher, promoting a more released curve through the spine. Inhaling to press the shins forward, widening through the collarbones. Then on the next breath in, lift the arms overhead, resting the backs of the hands on the floor. Extend that length through the body, pressing the shins forward. Then on the out breath, let's leave the hands rested on the floor as we gently start to curve down through the spine. Let's control this vertebra by vertebra with no rush. Soften the buttocks. Feeling that gentle reconnection through middle back and lower back. Softening again through the shoulders, through the collarbones. Then bringing the hands to an interlock and resting the hands behind the back of the head. So we're almost like resting, cradling the head in the hands, elbows turned open. Now drawing the soles of the feet together, allowing the knees to release wide. Starting to get into that space in the inner thigh, in and around the hips. Then turning your gaze to look over the left shoulder. Following the nose rather than the chin to draw your gaze back to center. Then turn to look over the right shoulder. As you return the head to center, keep that connection with the hands cupped behind the head. On an out breath, lead with the right elbow to open out into the left of the rib cage, looking over the left elbow. So you'll feel that that lifts the stretch into the side of the rib cage, into the underarm. Inhale to return to center. Then exhale, repeat that extension to the opposite side, turning the gaze over the right elbow. Engage the core, then come back towards center. Now take the hands away from the lower back, reposition the hands either side of the hips. Exhale to draw the tummy button in, and we'll slide the thighs towards one another. On an out breath, draw those knees again in towards the chest. Let's make sure that any tension in the lower back is eased away. Then when you're ready, roll to one side and bring yourself back to a comfortable seated position. Perfect. So we'll start in a cross-leg position. My preference is to draw the left heel in first and park the right heel in front of the ankle. Cross-leg is a very personal thing. Some people like to stack the feet one on top of the other. You might prefer to place the feet one on top of the other. Most times the limitations are the knee joints don't like it or the hips feel a little tight. So if you have a block and you want to use the access of lifting the hips a little higher, now is a good time to grab it. Perfect. It does make a difference. It slackens the knees. So we'll bring the hands either side of the hips. For now, I feel as though it's just fingertips that are touching. And we'll remind ourselves to breathe length into the spine. So visualize lifting up out of the sit bones, top of the head, parallel to the ceiling. Then press the open palms a little more towards the floor. So we're really opening into that space through this tight muscle here at the side of the chest and into the arms. Keep that core engagement so that we remain centered. As you extend the right arm away from the body, lift the left arm up, turn the gaze to the middle finger of the left hand, then allow that right elbow to draw in towards the waist as you come over the midline of the body. Keep looking up to the middle finger of the left hand, keeps the chest open, keeps that rib cage open. Then press through the fingers, engage the core, inhale back to center. Then we'll take that extension to the opposite side. So gently allowing that left elbow to fold in so that we can retain that length through the upper body. Trying to keep the weight equally stacked through the sit bones. Then inhaling to lift and come back to center. Reposition the right hand behind the hip. Bring the left hand to the right knee. A little care here not to draw the knee towards the chest. If anything, we want to just gently press that inner thigh away. Inhale to lift up out of the sit bones. Follow the side of the rib cage and turn your gaze towards the back of the room. Shoulder blades drawn together. Every inhalation re-lengthening the spine. Exhaling again to engage the core. Inhaling now to lift the arms overhead, returning your gaze forward. Extend through the fingertips. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen through the side of the body. On the next exhale, opposite hand to opposite knee. On the inhale, lift out of the sit bones and come again into this twist, this time opening the left rib cage towards the back of the room. On and out breath, release. Facing forward, repositioning the hands in front of the ankles. So this next action is a forward fold. With the ankles crossed, it feels a little more limiting in the knees, in and around the hips. So we all work to our own range of movement here. Rather than dropping the head down, try to keep the sternum lifted, the shoulder blades drawn together. And my personal preference is to lower the elbows to the floor so that I retain that diagonal line from the back of the head to the tailbone. Shoulder blades drawn together, keeping the head lifted, looking at the horizon point. Every out breath sinking a little more deeply into this space in the inner thigh. Engaging the core, pressing into the palms, lifting your gaze to the end of the fingertips as you press into the palms and walk back towards center. Reposition the hands behind the hips, shoulder blades drawn together. Lift through the sternum. So watch that we don't lean back into the hands here. We want to remain lifted out the sit bones. The intention is to open through the heart space. On an out breath, engage the core. Return your gaze to face forward. Then we'll switch that leg cross over. So opposite foot in front or behind. This time extending the arms forward. So it feels as though we're reaching as far forward as we can without creating curvature in the upper spine. So keeping the shoulder blades drawn together, pressing through the fingertips, engaging the core, lifting and lengthening out of the sit bones, then bringing the palms together, resting right forefinger to the top of left, creating an interlock open to the heart. Turn the hands inside out. Inhale to lift the arms up overhead. So we often forget about that mobility in the fingers and the wrists. So let's just take a moment to push a little more keenly through the palms, opening into the palms, stretching the backs of the fingers, opening out the wrists, engaging the core, then floating the hands back down to chest level. As you turn the hands back towards the heart, exhale to draw the tummy button in and visualize doing a cat stretch in this seated position, curving the spine to the back of the room, nodding the chin to the chest. Then inhaling to lift and lengthen back to center. One more time, turning those palms inside out, lifting the arms overhead. Mindfully equal weight through the sit bones as you exhale to extend to the right side, turning your gaze up to the left corner of the room. Exhale, draw the tummy button in. Inhale back to center. On the exhale, extend to the opposite side and simply just shift your focus to the opposite corner. Exhale, draw the tummy button in, come back to center. Separate the hands now and we'll reposition the hands in an interlock behind the lower back. Let's stack the left forefinger to the top just so that we're giving the fingers a good workout as well. Shoulder blades drawn together, core engaged. Then slide the hands away from the lower back. And please check in that we're not pushing the chin forward. Keep that chin nicely tucked back. As you release, separate the hands, reposition the hands behind the hips. So before we did that action of lifting the sternum, we're just going to take it a little bit further now, pressing the shins forward, lifting the bottom from the floor, opening through the heart space, through the hip space, feeling equally weighted between the shins and the wrists. Then on and out breath, release and bring the sit bones back to the floor. Perfect. We're feeling nicely warmed up now. So come on to an all fours position. I'll ask you to position the knees directly underneath the hips, the wrists directly underneath the shoulders. And I quite like that anchoring point of turning the toes under. If you can see in your screen, if you can see yourself, just check the shape that you make with the spine. Ideally, we're in a neutral spine position, so that means that we've not necessarily got excessive curvature between the shoulders, that we're nicely relaxed. A straight line from the back of the head to the tailbone. Exhaling to draw the tummy button in, wide through the collarbones. Then on the next out breath, start at the space from the lower back rather than between the shoulder blades. And let's see if we can curve the spine up towards the ceiling. Turning the tailbone under. Good, nice work. To reverse that, relax through the spine, rest on the tops of the feet, then follow the sternum forward to ease into that curve the opposite way. So an exhale to roll up, and inhale to lift the chest forward. So the spine is designed to go both ways. As children, we go through that full range of movement. As adults, we become a little more sensitive to that range of movement. And we also tend to hold a lot of tension in the shoulders. So as we come back to this neutral spine position, be mindful again of drawing the tummy button in, lifting the pelvic floor up, then extend both hands forward, pressing the palms to the mat, driving the sit bones towards the heels. And we're getting into that space in the underarms at the side of the chest again. Every out breath coming a little more deeply into this release. Keeping the back of the neck in a nice neutral line, so no need to lift the head. Inhale to lift the fingertips, pressing the wrists to the floor. Little windscreen washer here as you rotate the wrists by drawing the hands from one side to the other. Then replace the palms to the floor, lower the elbows to the mat. So as you draw the shoulders forward, you can feel the weight of the shoulders over the elbows. Bring the tips of the thumbs together, walk the feet back, and come into a low plank position. So in a low plank position, the ideal is that we don't have the bottom overly lifted. We want to feel that equal weight through the forearms, across the collarbones, working hard on the core and the thighs to keep you held up. Then on the exhale, lowering down onto the thighs, the belly and the chest. Now position the elbows either side of the chest, the palms either side of the head. Take care to soften the shoulders away from the ears, and we can use a little half tilt of the hips to push the thighs to the floor. On an inhale, push into the forearms, lift the chest. On an exhale, turn and look over one shoulder. Inhale to look forward. Exhale to look over the other shoulder. Then inhale to look forward. On an out breath, releasing, bringing the forehead to the floor. So we'll reposition the hands either side of the chest. That means lifting the elbows up from the floor, drawing the elbows in towards the rib cage, keeping that anchor through the hips, so pressing the thighs to the mat, pushing into the palms and inhaling to lift the chest, coming into a cobra position. If this feels too much on the lower back, you can always come back down to that elbow pose. Then push the sit bones back and return to that long child's pose. You know where you need the release here. We're all different. Sometimes we need it through the shoulders or the neck. Sometimes we need that release in the lower back. Lift yourself back up into an all fours position. So I feel like we kind of need to do the opposite of a rain dance today. We need to do a bit of a sun dance for next Wednesday, because I won't enjoy it as much if we're in the rain. So my intention today is to do the salute to the sun with you. Some of you have done it many times before, some of you have done it a couple of times before. So what I would say is, if you're confident and happy in your version of salute to the sun, I'm very happy for you to go through it. For those of us who have not done it very often or maybe doing it for the first time, I'm just going to take it nice and slowly and show you two different versions. So the first version I'd like to go through is the modified version. This is particularly good for anyone who has issues with the wrists, who perhaps should be avoiding inversions because you don't want the head upside down, or even has undue pressure in the lower back. So this might be a better sequence for you today. It might be different next week, but today this might be the one that suits you best. Before we go into the full sequence, I'm just going to remind you of some of the transitions that we have throughout the salute to the sun. So one of the keys is when we go from plank, for example, and lower ourselves down onto the floor, we would start our plank in a diagonal position. When we're doing the salute to the sun, you feel a little bit under pressure and sometimes you forget form. So we often end up with the bottoms up in the air, and it's really not your friend. So when we come to plank, this is the posture that we want to be in. To come out of plank, there are two ways of doing it. The first way, which is generally kinder if you're not as strong in the upper body, is to lower the knees, the chest, the chin, and keep the bottom up. The elbows are in. That will give us space to lead into opening the sternum forward. The alternative, which arguably is a little bit harder, is to come into the chaturanga pose, which rather than using the knees to help take the weight, we simply fold the elbows back, hover an inch from the floor, then lift up into the lift. So I'm going to get you to try both of those versions, just so that you know in your own mind which one you prefer. So come onto the all fours position. We'll step back into plank. Beautiful. So remember that key point of getting your plank set right. So back of the head, a diagonal to the bottom. Then lower down, knees, chest, chin. Let's try the easier version. Lifting the bottom up. Then inhaling to lift the chest. Feels weird, doesn't it? The The toes are turned under to give you a little bit of ballast to lift up. Perfect. Now, sometimes the limitation is actually that thought of keeping the bottom up. That's the bit that confuses you. So that's why the chaturanga, although it's a little bit harder, it's a little bit more fluid. So if you come back again into your plank pose, turning the toes under, and we'll try now lowering down. Simply think of bending the elbows back and grabbing hold of the rib cage. Don't worry about the bottom lifting. Beautiful. That looked good. That looked quite comfortable. Then press yourself back into the child's pose. So when we do the sun salutation, there's obviously quite a lot of repetition in it. So it might be that you want to do the chaturanga pose the first few times. It might be that you kind of decide, actually, I'll stick with knees, chest, chin. It doesn't matter either way. As I say, what I'd like to do first is show you the modification, which won't require the plank. So you've got somewhere to go if your wrists, your back, or pressure on the head doesn't allow it. So if we all come up into a standing position, and even if you know the full expression of this sequence, it's always handy having this one in your arsenal just in case anything happens and you need a bit of a break one day. So turn the palms towards the front of the room. In our mountain pose, we'll always have the knees a little bit soft. Inhale to lift the arms up overhead. Because this is the modified version, I will exaggerate how much I'm bending the knees to bring the hands to the floor. So that would be your modified forward fold. Those of us who are very tight in the hamstrings will be very grateful for this posture. Now we'll come into an all fours position, which means bringing both knees back. Then we'll take hold of the right thigh, we'll bring it forward, and we'll come into the lunge on this side. Beautiful. Then push that foot back. Rather than doing the plank, which would be the next part of the full expression of the sequence, we will prepare to come down into the chest to the floor. Then inhale to lift the chest forward. Then rather than downward facing dog, we push the sit bones back and we come into the child's pose. We'll transition again through the all fours. Then we'll bring the left leg forward, hands to the heart. Then hinge forward, turn that back toe under, strike forward again. Remember that big old bend in the knees. Your option, if you have any tension in the lower back, is to place the hands on the thighs and gently roll up through the spine, looking down at the toes, then rolling the shoulders back and down. So obviously for demonstration purposes, we did that quite slowly. So we're going to take the left side a little bit more into the natural rhythm that we need. And then I'll go through the full expression for those of you who want to push it a little bit more. So inhale, lift up, look up towards the thumbs. On an out breath, bend the knees, bring the palms to the floor. We're going to step back again into the all fours position. We're then going to bring that left shin forward, coming into the lunge, lifting the hands to the heart. Hinge forward again, back to the all fours position as you lower the chest to the floor, then inhale, lift up. We're skipping the down dog. We're going into the child's pose, then back again to the all fours position. To get balance, make sure we're doing both sides. We bring the right shin forward, come into the lunge on this side. Then as we hinge forward, step that back foot to the front. Keep the knees bent, roll up through the spine. Then roll the shoulders back and down as you lift the gaze forward. Are we all good with that one? Quite an easy version, that. But as I say, it's very useful to have because sometimes if you've got pain in the wrists or if you have a headache, you don't necessarily want to go upside down. So the full expression of the sequence, for those of you who wish to try it today, will again come to the front of the mat. I always remind you to make sure that you're at the front of your mat because when we do the sequence, we travel. And before you know it, you're off. So palms facing forward, knees nice and soft. Inhale, lift up, look up between the palms. On the out breath, less of an exaggerated bend in the knees as you bring the palms to the floor. Rather than doing the all fours, we strike straight back into the first lunge. In this version, we keep the palms to the floor, then turn that back to under, strike the left foot back, come into the plank. Notice that the plank is a diagonal. That will make it far easier to lower down into your chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. Then inhale, lift the chest, turning the toes under, pushing up into the downward facing dog. I always think it's worth taking an extra beat in the down dog to get your weight into the heels to lift the tailbone. My little hack for this next posture is to use the hand to bring the foot forward. So you're physically placing that foot under the shoulder so that when you come to the lunge on this side, you don't get stuck halfway. Turn that back to under, strike forward, then widen the arms. Instead of rolling up through the spine, we're unhinging, so we lift off. Lift the arms overhead. We can encourage a little back bend here, but we're not going to find it in the hips. So try not to push the hips forward. Keep the sit bone pushed back. Lift the sternum, open through the heart, then bring the hands back to heart. Perfect. Let's do the opposite side. I'm just going to move my mat away from my wall because I get quite carried away when I do salute to the sun. So inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Strike the left foot back, lower the shin. Inhale to lift the chest forward. Turn that back to under, strike back into plank. Take a breath in on your plank, hold the breath, then lower down, knees, chest, chin or chaturanga. Inhaling to lift the chest. Exhaling to turn the toes under. Then again, if you want to use the hand to bring the left foot forward, coming into the lunge on this side, then turning the right toe under, striking forward, widening the arms, drawing the tummy button in, inhaling to unhinge, lift up, look up, and hands to the heart. Perfect. So when I'm demonstrating, I can't see what you're doing, so I'm not really teaching. So I'm just going to check in. Are you all kind of happy with the sequence? Will you trust my words so that I can watch you? Because I can't see you when I'm upside down. So choose the version that best suits you. Because it requires a little bit more thinking, I'm going to cue the slightly harder version. So if you're doing the modified version, you'll know by now the bits that you want to skip. So usually it means coming to all fours instead of doing something quite energetic. That's the kind of get out of jail free card. So when you're ready, we'll come back to the front of your mat. And as I say, I'm cueing the full expression, but if you want to do modified, then stick with that. So inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Take the right foot back, come into the lunge on this side. That's it, keep lowering the knee so the shin comes to the floor. Perfect. Then take that left foot back, come into the plank. Beautiful. Lower down when you're ready onto knees, chest, chin or chaturanga. Thankfully for most of you, your screens go so low that I miss you. Inhale to lift the chest. Then turn the toes under. We're either doing all fours or pushing up into downward facing dog. Remember to take that weight back if you're doing the down dog. Beautiful. If it helps you, grab hold of the right thigh so that you can place the right ankle under the shoulder, coming into the lunge. Fantastic. Then bring the left foot forward, come into the fold. When you're in the fold, knees as bent as you like, widen the arms, lift the chest, look to the thumbs, and bring the hands back to heart. Nice. You just need a bit more confidence now. You know what you're doing. So let's do it on the left side. We need to be balanced. So inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Take the left leg back, come into the lunge. Shin all the way to the floor. Then take the right foot back, come into the plank. Then lower down when you're ready. Knees, chest, chin. Chaturanga. Inhaling to lift the chest. Beautiful. Then pushing up into the down dog. Then we're striking that left foot forward, coming into the lunge. Good. I think using the hand is helping. Then bring the right foot forward, come into the fold. Then widen the arms. Engage the core, lift the chest, look to the thumbs, and bring the hands to heart. Can I just say that is a thing of beauty? It's rare that everyone finishes at the same time, but you're all synchronized. How amazing. How did that feel? Are we good? Feeling a bit warm? It does get a bit warm. So I'm going to do it one more time with you. Less words and more intention, okay? So let's see how much of it we can remember without being prompted every step of the way. So inhale, exhale, hinge. Stepping into lunge on the right. Stepping back into the plank, retaining the breath. Then as you exhale, lowering down. Inhaling, lifting the chest. Turning the toes under, up into the downward facing dog. With or without use of the hand, bring the right foot forward into the lunge. Step forward into the fold. Widen the arms, lift the chest, look to the thumbs and hands to heart. Straight to the left side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, plank. Inhale, hold the plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift. And hands to heart. Nice. Now take a moment here and just close the eyes. So stay in your standing posture. And just listen to your breath. Chances are the breath's a little bit faster. And we didn't sign up for aerobics. This is meant to be yoga. So let's tune into that breath. Remember everything we know about drawing the breath to the belly. Inhaling deeply to the belly, the chest and the collarbones. Exhaling fully from the collarbones, the chest and the belly last. Nice. Just getting hold of the breath. Now turn the palms towards the front of the room. Take a moment to blink the eyes open. Just check in, because we're in mountain pose, that we've got the knees nice and soft. We get very used to, particularly those of us who stood up for a living, we get very used to locking the knees out. So we want to keep them nice and soft. We also want to ensure that the pelvis, if you visualize it like a bowl, that the pelvis is in the optimum position, that if we fill that bowl with water, it's not going to either tip forward or scoosh out the back. I've got a little meme that I can share with you that illustrates that. But it's that sense of using the pelvis as a bowl, drawing the tummy button in, lifting the pelvic floor up so that we've got lots of control, lifting the rib cage off the belly, rolling the shoulders back and down. Then on the next inhalation, lifting the arms up overhead, pressing through the fingertips, rocking your weight onto the balls of the feet, so lifting the heels from the floor. Then we'll keep the heels lifted as we push the sit bones back and we come into an awkward chair pose. Now, when we're in this awkward chair pose, it feels a bit like a squat. The heels are up, so the balance will be affected. But we've also got to make sure that we're not just letting everything droop down south. So exhale, lift the pelvic floor, draw the tummy button in. Every in-breath is cooling the thighs down. Every out-breath is pushing away that fatigue. So we're energizing, we're recharging our batteries in a very active and dynamic pose. On the next exhale, lower the heels, bring the hands either side of the thighs. On the inhale, push into the soles of the feet. Come back to standing and tell me you love me because I've taken you out of that pain. Lift both arms up overhead. We'll start by bringing both arms forward, so effectively making big windmills with the arms. Then we'll change direction, we'll take the arms back. So we're opening through the collarbones, through the chest. Then we're going to take it that we bring one arm forward, one arm back. Meanwhile, the hips and shoulders will remain square. So you're not doing the crawl. We're not doing the backstroke. Beautiful. It's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head. Then lift both arms up overhead. I'm going to bring the palms together. I can see that I'm just slightly off camera here. So I'm going to bring the palms together. I'm going to use the right hand to take hold of the left wrist. And then we're going to draw on that wrist to deepen into the side of the waist and the rib cage. Inhaling back to center. Opposite hand to opposite wrist. And then repeat that extension on the other side. Inhale to come back to center. Bring the hands back down by your side. Think again about this pelvic basin, so you don't want to be shooting forward or back. Engage the core. Lift the right knee. And to get our balance, we want the right knee in line with the hip, the underside of the foot parallel to the floor. And just remember that little golden rule of keeping a tiny bit of play in the knee. Then much the same way as we did when we were lying down earlier, we'll use the toe to draw little circles. And we'll take those circles the opposite way. Then replace that foot to the floor. Engage the core, lift the pelvic floor. Let's lift the opposite knee up. Underside of the foot parallel to the floor. And I almost want to get to that sense where the lower leg's just hanging there. It's not really active, it's just soft. Then we can activate the ankle by drawing circles in. Then changing direction, taking those circles the opposite way. Then replacing that foot to the floor. Perfect. Both hands just rested on the hips, soften the knees. Engage the core, then hinge forward. Come into that 90-degree angle, shoulder blades drawn together. Pushing the sit bones to the back of the room, lifting the sternum forward. Then peeling the right heel from the floor. Pushing that heel back to the mat, lifting the left heel. Pushing that heel back to the mat, then lift the tailbone again. Let's just take it a little deeper into those hamstrings. Then on the out breath, engaging the core. Inhaling to lift the chest. Softening the hands down by your side. And then I'll invite you to come to a space on the floor, whether that is supine or seated, whether you prefer to lie on your back or your side. If you have low blood pressure, rolling to your left side is generally a little kinder. And making any adjustments you need to find some comfort here. Perhaps bending the knees up, or taking the hands and feet a little wider from the midline of the body. Remembering that gesture of receptivity, opening the palms, softening the fingers, relaxing the jaw, the eyebrows, softening the tongue and the well of the mouth. and returning your awareness to the breath. Remind yourself to come to the end of each full breath transaction. There's no rush, no cutting corners. Expanding and widening into the lungs and the ribcage. Softening and releasing the weight of the spine into the floor. Remember, the spine is not designed to be a straight line. So honor those natural curves. That little lift at the back of the neck. That undulation between the shoulder blades. Again, a little lift in the lower back. And allowing the legs to become heavy and released. Now bring your awareness to the soles of the feet. Relax the right foot. Relax the left foot. Feel both feet fully released and relaxed. Relax the ankles, calves and shins. Softening and releasing. Creating space around the ankles, the calves and the shins. Soften the knees. All the muscles around the knees, to the back of the knees. Relax the muscles of the right inner thigh, of the left inner thigh. Feel the upper thigh muscles roll outward. Sense the back of the thighs becoming soft, almost spreading into the space beneath you. Buttocks released. Hips wide and soft. Creating space between the hip points. Feeling the weight of the pelvis sink a little more deeply into the earth. Feeling your legs fully released. Notice the weight of your hands by your side. Relax the fingers of the right hand, fingers of the left hand. Relax the weight at the back of your hands, your wrists. Soften the forearms. Release the elbows. Notice the weight of the upper arms, the shoulders. Become aware of that expansion across the collarbones, through the chest. And again, that sense of release as you feel the weight of your upper body easing into the flats of the shoulder blades, the wide muscles of the back gently submitting. The only perceptible movement here is the movement of your breath, widening and expanding the lungs and the ribcage, softening and releasing the belly. Check in again The jaw remains relaxed, the temples soft, the tongue resting in the well of the mouth. All the muscles of the face released. The weight of your head easing into the earth beneath you. It's as though any tension in your body simply melting into the floor. Removing your body of fatigue, negative energy. Feeling your body recharging, re-energizing. Remaining aware of the natural rhythm of your breath. Once more, mindfully coming to the end of each full breath transaction. Starting to make each subsequent breath a little noisier. Releasing your next exhale with an audible sigh. Let your breath find its own rhythm. As you land fully back in your body, you become aware again of your space within this room. Noticing the texture of your clothing against your skin, the cool air at your face, your hands, and your feet. Making the smallest movements now to slowly reawaken. Wiggling fingers and toes. Wiggle the jaw and the nose. Taking a long stretch or hugging the knees to the chest. In your own time, rolling to the side that feels most welcome to you. Pausing there for a moment to blink the eyes open. Then when you're ready, returning to a comfortable seated position. Now bring your hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honours the light in you. Namaste. And I think we've done it because the sun's definitely out.
Oh, that was bliss. Thank you, Angela. Really good.
You're most
Really enjoyed it.
welcome.